weather. And we weren't sure it was going to be all too sunny. We heard reports today of electrical storms in Palm Beach, possibly threatening the live training session, possibly threatening Real Madrid's ability to train here today. But it's looking clear, maybe not too sunny, but no storms, no rain as of this minute. Here we're seeing Thibaut Courtois, Fran, Andre Lunin, all training. And then very shortly we should see the rest of the outfield squad come out and train. So it's 1 draw, 1 win for Real Madrid in the Club World Cup so far, totaling 4 points in Group H of the tournament. And they are tied on points, but ahead on goal difference with RB Salzburg. So everything is up in question for this final game of the group stage for Real Madrid. Of course, finishing first or second will decide the opponent Real Madrid face in the next round. It's looking like it would be either Manchester City or Juventus. That's Manchester City if Real Madrid finish second in the group, and Juventus if they top the group. So ideally, they're looking to face Juventus in the next round, especially after it seems like Real Madrid play Man City every single year, which they have done for about the last 4 years. So Salzburg, an identical group stage result so far. They picked up a win against Pachuca 2-1 in match week 1. Goals from Oscar Gluck and Onisiwo. And then in their last game, they were also held to a draw by Al Hilal. It was a goalless draw for Salzburg in match week 2. As I said, levelling Real Madrid on 4 points, but 1 goal behind on goal difference. Of course, Real Madrid played RB Salzburg for the first time not that long ago in the Champions League this past season. They contested their first official competitive match. They had played each other before in a friendly. But in the Champions League, match week 7 in the group stage this season, they faced off at the Santiago Bernabeu. And Real Madrid ran out 5-1 winners. Rodrigo with a brace, Vini with a brace, scoring his 100th and 101st Real Madrid goal. And also Kylian Mbappe got on the score sheet as well. So 5-1 in the only official match the two teams have faced. Let's hope for a similar result this time around. Of course, being the last match and qualification just depending on a win, there's no need for a huge score. They're not in any need of picking up a big difference in goal difference, but of course we'd like to see some goals, and we'd like to see this Xabi Alonso football take to form and maybe evolve somewhat without going down to 10 men. Still an impressive performance against Pachuca. And we saw the team maybe gel together a bit more. We saw more combinations, especially from the front. And that's perhaps what we can expect a bit more of. Those forward runs from midfield. Jude Bellingham, Arda Güler and Fede Valverde maybe getting on the end of those build-up plays. But of course, that was all with a man less than Pachuca. So hopefully 11 against 11 versus Salzburg. We'll be seeing even more positive signs. And perhaps a more complete Real Madrid. More similar to the vision that Xabi Alonso holds for this team. Prior to RB Salzburg 0-0 draw against Al Hilal, they'd scored in 16 successive competitive games in a run that began after a goalless draw away to Austria Klagenfurt in the Austrian Bundesliga on the 9th of February. They'd scored in every game since 9th of February. That was until Al Hilal came along and, well, better said, that was until Yassine Bono came along. Had a great game against Real Madrid, the ex-Sevilla keeper, and did exactly the same against RB Salzburg. proving to have a very good tournament, the former Sevilla goalkeeper. One of the big talking points against SCF Pachuca, aside from the red card and the win, of course, was the performance of Dean Howson. Superb against the Mexican side, Dean Howson, as was he against Al Hilal, but even more so against Pachuca. In just his second game for Real Madrid, put in an excellent performance. %93% pass accuracy from the centre-back, 97 touches, 2 dribbles completed, 11 passes into the final third, and 3 long passes completed. 100% tackle accuracy with 2 tackles, 7 clearances, 5 clearances with the head, 1 interception, and 5 recoveries. Watching the game, you may have realised pretty much every corner that Pachuca sent in, Howson got his head on the end of it. Real imperious performance from the new signing. Of course, apart from the goal scorers Gula, Valverde and Bellingham, I have to talk about Fran Garcia too. It seems as if Xabi Alonso has taken a shining to the left-back already. Of course, don't have too many options at left-back with Folon Mendy. Unfortunately, not available to him just yet. He is the only option, but he's played very well since coming into the team in this Club World Cup. Apart from Dean Howson, we could say that perhaps the biggest revelation so far for Real Madrid, for Xabi Alonso in this Club World Cup, has been the young Gonzalo Garcia, 21-year-old striker. Played a few games with the first team last season. 6 games, 3 in La Liga, 1 in the Copa del Rey, and scored in that game against Leganés at the Butarque. Scored the 3rd for Real Madrid in the last minute of the game, making it 3-2, and of course advancing Real Madrid into the semi-finals of the competition. But the season before that, well, last season, I beg your pardon, in the Castilla team, scored 25 goals from 36 games. He's no stranger to finding the back of the net. A lot of people have spoken and said that perhaps Real Madrid are missing something up top, missing more of a classic number 9, if you will, a Joselu. Someone a bit more of a target man, a bit more of an aerial target for the crosses from the likes of Trent and Fran Garcia. And they may have found exactly that. It looks as if Real Madrid will be counting on the young Gonzalo Garcia in this upcoming season, and they certainly have done during this Club World Cup. Speaking of strikers, Xabi Alonso has said they're expecting Kylian Mbappé to be available for the game against Salzburg. We're still not sure how he's doing. Hopefully, very shortly, we're going to be seeing him in training. It was only last week when he returned from hospital and rejoined the team after a short bout of gastroenteritis. Wasn't available against Al Hilal nor against Pachuca. But hopefully today we're going to be getting the good news that he's back in full training and that he's back available for Xabi Alonso's selection. That's really all of the team news, injury news that we have at the moment. Of course, we're still waiting to see a return for Dani Carvajal and Eder Militao. They're both with the team. Eduardo Camavinga yet to make his comeback too. But they all have been training with the team. So hopefully we should be seeing them very, very shortly in match action for Real Madrid. Still waiting for the outfield players to come out and train. So whilst we're watching the goalkeepers, we may as well talk about Thibaut Courtois. He was a very close second for man of the match against Pachuca. 10 saves made against the Mexicans. As I said, Pachuca started the game very well. took advantage of their numerical advantage, had the majority of possession, especially in the first half, and did manage to create chances. As the game went on, Real Madrid grew into the game, managed to slow down that Pachuca offence. And as the match went on, only got more even. Real Madrid only controlled things more. But he certainly was called into action in that first half, Thibaut Courtois. As I said, 10 saves made, including a double save after a Pachuca counter-attack. Saw a very positive cameo from Brahim Diaz too against Pachuca. Came on off the bench to make an assist for Fede Valverde. Dani Ceballos also, after Xabi Alonso said he was very much part of his plans, will get minutes and will have a role to play in this coming season. He came on just to control things in front of defence, slow the play down as Pachuca tried to mount a late comeback. As we've said many times, he is the perfect player. If you just want to control possession, he doesn't really tend to lose the ball and recycles it very, very well. And speaking of not losing the ball, Luka Modric continued his farewell parade, which has been going on now for about 2 years, ever since people thought he may be retiring. He's had a standing ovation pretty much everywhere he's gone, in Spain and abroad, and it's been no different in the United States. He came on for half an hour against Pachuca. Maybe playing a bit more defensive than we'd seen him previously. But did get forward too. And how lucky are these American fans that they get to see some of the last minutes of Luka Modric in a Real Madrid shirt. Still not sure what his future will be, but unfortunately it won't be with Real Madrid. Still no sign of the outfield players at the moment. We're just watching the keepers. Perhaps Xabi Alonso doesn't want to give anything away to the press, doesn't want to give any tactical information ahead of the game against RB Salzburg. Oh, RB Salzburg, of course, probably the biggest team in Austria. If you're talking about recent success, Rapid Vienna, probably the most well-known alongside Sturm Graz and Austria Wien. But Salzburg, definitely the highest funded team since Red Bull took over the club. Although they're not called Red Bull Salzburg because that would infringe on ownership rules within the Austrian league. It's RB Salzburg, short for Rasenball, which means grass sport. But yeah, they finished second in the Austrian Bundesliga last season, which for Salzburg isn't the best of results. They are expected to win the league pretty much every year. Despite that run of scoring in 16 games leading up to that Al Hilal fixture, hadn't really managed to dominate the Austrian First Division last season. Oscar Gluck, Israeli international, probably the biggest threat for Salzburg, the biggest one to look out for. As to Mads Bidstrup, 24 years of age from Denmark, has been capped by the Danish national team. But their other goal scorer from their opening game in the competition, Owesino, is also looking like a goal-scoring threat. We know how RB Salzburg operate, how the Red Bull system operates. They sign very young talent to later then sell to their sister club, RB Leipzig. So not too much experience within the team, but a lot of quality, a lot of youthful exuberance within the squad. ahead of the Club World Cup. They had lost 2 of their last 5 games of the season, losing 4-2 to eventual Austria Bundesliga winners Sturm Graz. Which pretty much handed Sturm Graz the title in the penultimate match day. I said, to deny Salzburg the league title, in which they were favourites, in all honesty. But this isn't the Austrian Bundesliga, this is the Club World Cup, and it's a competition that Real Madrid have certainly travelled stateside to win, not just take part. And here we can see the rest of the squad. Qualification to the next round is pretty much a given. Now, all that's up for grabs and up to play for, really, is where they finish, be it first or second, which will decide who Real Madrid, Xabi Alonso and his team will face in the next round. And there we can see a certain Kylian Mbappé back in training. Hopefully that means he's ready to face RB Salzburg. But by any means, great to see him, well, out of the hospital, back with the team. And another option for Xabi Alonso. It was funny, a reporter asked Xabi the other day in a press conference, are you worried about Real Madrid's maybe lack of certainty in front of goal? But that was without the European Golden Boot winner at his disposal. So of course, now that he's back in the team and hopefully starting against Salzburg, we can definitely expect some more goals, some more dynamism up top, and hopefully a win against the Austrians. Team just going through their paces, stretching before the real training starts. As we've said, it's never really customary to work into tactical play during these open training sessions. So there's a very good chance there's some Austrian media at the training ground that would perhaps give RB Salzburg some intimate information. We can also see Dani Carvajal and David Alaba with a leg brace on. They're 2 of the players we're waiting to see come back into the team. Camavinga also training. As to Eder Militao, hopefully we'll see them return to the pitch. There in the background, Victor Muñoz has been very impressive since coming into the team. Trying to work out what this training exercise is. Whatever it is, it looks like good fun. The players are all enjoying themselves, and well, I think the loser was Victor Muñoz, who's been made to do some press-ups. Oh, Andre Lunin perhaps will get a start in this competition. Probably the best understudy goalkeeper in the world. See, Antonio Rudiger had a bit of a problem with the Pachuca captain Cabral the other day. Reports that some pretty offensive language was shared by part of the Pachuca captain. Xabi Alonso confirmed that after the game in his post-match press conference, and that the correct measures would be taken. Of course, I don't want to see any of that in any game, in any stadium. So, as we can see today, Mbappé, Camavinga, Eder Militao, David Alaba and Dani Carvajal all training. We don't have an exact return date for any of them. In fact, they're working with the rest of the team. Yesterday, Eduardo Camavinga was working on his own, but now he's with the rest of the group. Can assume that very shortly they could be match fit again. by any means. Xabi Alonso still with an excellent squad at his disposal. Hopefully we'll see some changes. It'd be good to see a start for Brahim Diaz. After his form in the last game, we can expect Arda Güler to certainly get some minutes. Was extremely impressive against Pachuca. It was strange, however, because Xabi Alonso before the game said he has to start on the right-hand side. He sees him more as a winger because he sees more of the ball. And then he started him in the centre of the park in midfield to great effect. But as with many of the players, it's a big positive that so many of the squad has a lot of flexibility, can cover a multitude of positions. Just like Aurelien Tchouameni, of course, a native midfielder, more comfortable in that position, and he's made that very clear, but fantastic as an understudy centre-back. Some more fitness drills. Dani Carvajal, been told within the club, has been working extremely hard to come back as soon as possible, and is looking in very good shape after a terrible injury. Eder Militao also previously suffered an ACL injury. He's back in full training. Of course, Antonio Rudiger had surgery not too long ago, just after the league season, or just before the league season had finished. Surgery was successful, and he's back on the pitch for Real Madrid. And Jude Bellingham was asked the other day how his shoulder was doing, an injury that he's carried for 2 years now. It was picked up in a home draw against Rayo Vallecano. And he revealed to the press that he'll be having an eventual surgery after 2 years on his shoulder after the Club World Cup, hopefully after the final. He said he's booked it in for after the final, because of course he and Real Madrid expect to get to the final and not just get there but win it too. So that would be a big relief for Jude Bellingham to finally rid himself of that nagging injury to his shoulder. Now we're seeing Trent Alexander-Arnold. 2 starts in his first 2 games for Real Madrid. Maybe hasn't been as attacking as we'd expected, but equally that could be the instruction from Xabi Alonso, and also difficult to be very offensive when playing fullback, especially when you've gone down to 10 men and you perhaps have more of a defensive onus and need to get back and cover your centre-backs. But not too long now until we have the whole team back in training. At the moment, just Endrick and Ferland Mendy missing from the group. Endrick with a slight hamstring injury, rolling out of the competition. As to Mendy, just with a small muscle issue. But as for the rest of the team, very positive bill of health for Xabi Alonso. And bear in mind Real Madrid's recent luck of injuries and the amount we see in modern football. 2 out of an entire squad is not bad going at all. Well, they've been testing conditions in the United States. Very hot, very humid. As I said today, electrical storms in Florida almost put this training session at risk. But you would have seen recently on Real Madrid TV full extent to the team's training centre in Palm Beach that only started construction in January and beforehand was actually a park, and now has been converted into a top-class training facility for the best team in the world. And watching the video, watching how they turned it around in such short time and created this bespoke, state-of-the-art training facility in just a matter of months, it was incredibly impressive. I think it says a lot about the Americans' intentions with football and how seriously they're taking it ahead of next year's World Cup. Of course, this tournament is really serving as a precursor to the World Cup and a practice test, if you will. At the moment, they are passing the test with flying colours. It's been a very entertaining Club World Cup tournament. There was, of course, a lot of doubts beforehand, as ever, with new introductions into football. Now let's take a look at some of the latest results in the Club World Cup. Chelsea turning around their opening day loss, picking up a 3-0 win against Esperance. Benfica with another upset, beating Bayern Munich 1-0. Another upset too. Kiwi side Auckland City FC drawing with Boca Juniors. This was Auckland City FC who lost their first game 10-0 to Bayern Munich. Picked up a historic point for the team. Elsewhere, Inter Miami held to a 2-2 draw against Palmeiras. They were leading 2-0 and lost and conceded 2 goals in the final 10 minutes of the game. FC Porto held to a 4-4 draw against Al Ahly of Egypt. Another staggering result. PSG beating Seattle Sounders 2-0. Atletico Madrid beating Botafogo 1-0. But that wasn't enough to secure their qualification. They're out of the competition. But that was also the first time a European side had beaten a Brazilian side. Brazilian sides had gone unbeaten up until that point. Of course, Botafogo picked up a shock win over PSG in match week 1. And now we're seeing Xabi Alonso just up the intensity maybe in this training session. We're still getting to know him as a manager, as are the players. Players have already said they're loving what he's saying to them, the instructions they're being given, the intent. That word has been repeated many times, intensity, in the training sessions. You can see here, bearing in mind this is just the warm-up, it does look quite intense, even more so when you consider the heat in Florida. It's currently 28 degrees in Palm Beach. Not too hot, but very humid. It's expected to be even more thunderstorms the rest of this week, really, in Palm Beach. Smattering of rain, too. But thankfully for Real Madrid, they don't play their next game in Florida. Their third and final group stage game of the competition will be played in Philadelphia, in the Lincoln Financial Field in Pennsylvania. Historic city. Of course, famously, the scenario of Rocky. Hopefully there will be no upsets in Philadelphia this time around. Xabi Alonso just watching over his team. It's like they're doing short passing, possibly transition work. We saw in the build-up to Jude Bellingham's goal. It came from this sort of play, quick transition, a back heel from Gonzalo Garcia. Gave way to the counter-attack. That's what we've been seeing. If we can take anything from the first 2 games and kind of put an identity to this identity of Xabi Alonso's football, is those fast transitions and counter-attacking moves, which of course are very, very easy on the eye. Well, not long left until we wrap up. See the players have finished with their warm-up. But be sure to watch RB Salzburg, Real Madrid. It's at 3 in the morning Spanish time. But that's all from us. Until then, though, it's adios from us.